and the evangelicals and others like that. So, this is why I'd say Dawkins, paints it with a broad brush, but that makes for, I mean, anybody who starts to put footnotes and qualifications in from the first page is not going to write a bestseller.
Yeah, yeah. I think that was very well put, Professor Michael. We have another question here by Sabur Ahmed, who does a lot of social media work on evolution and its compatibility question with Islam and what have you. He's asking, "Love your work, Michael. What was the reason that you felt the need to write the book Darwinism as Religion?" So that's one out of your several books out of your library that you've written.
Well, Sabah, can I say, first of all, I think that's a really good question. I mean, I'm not, often when you answer something, what you say is when you're asked, you say, that's a very good question. So
Yeah.
even if you can't answer it, the person who asked the question feels very good about it. Well, I think I can answer it, but I still think it's a very good question. This goes back, 30 or 40 years ago when I was debating with the creationists. So personality, which I get on well with these people at an individual level. I mean, I might vigorously argue do. But at the personal level, I find it very difficult not to like my fellow human beings. I mean, a lot of these people were very, not charismatic, but very personal, personable at that sort of level. And I still remember one of the leading creationists, a man called Dwayne Gish, said to me, he said, Mike, he said, you evolutionists, you Darwinians are just as much in the religion business as we are. Well, at the time I said, oh, no, 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 you silly little man who wears a toupee and a wig. No, 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 you're wrong. But I went home and I said, the son of a bitch, he might be right. That when I see a lot, I mean, if you ever go to a humanist conference or something like that, dear God, it's like a revivalist tent meeting. That they don't want to hear anybody, saying anything good about religion, anybody offering any, dissection of the arguments of somebody like Dawkins. That's, this isn't what we do here, And I increasingly felt that part of the problem with that's going on today and the fight is because I think that often the non-believers, particularly the atheists, the humanists, make a quasi no a real. It's not a spiritual religion, but it bears many. Call it a secular religion, but it bears many characteristics, even to the fact these days that they have Darwin Day, which is what, February 12th, the day of Darwin's birthday. Well, the Christians have Jesus Day, which they call Christmas, and now the Darwinians are doing exactly the same. But as I said, I see a lot of this as a moral issue. Well, of course, a lot to do with religion is morality. I mean, let's talk about Buddhism. Let's not even talk about Islam or Christianity. I mean, clearly, one of the reasons, I mean, why does one think of Buddhism as a religion? Well, at least a major part of it is because it has very strong moral directives that if you're a Buddhist, there are things that you ought to do just as clearly as there are things you ought to do as a Christian. It's laid out. I mean, and for instance, raping a young girl is absolutely and completely forbidden for a Buddhist. I mean, just as much as it is for a Christian. So it's clear that a major component of a religion is morality. And of course, as I say, growing up as a Quaker, although they don't have any fixed creed, I mean, it's clear that a major motivation of Quakerism is the moral issues. I mean, they're pacifist. That I mean, they're very much involved, as I said, they were in the abolition of slavery. When I grew up, my parents, my mother, my father would work all day, and then once a week he'd go and do prison visiting. He'd go to the prison and spend an hour just chatting with prisoners. Well, why did he do this? Because he felt, as a Christian, morally, this was the sort of thing that he should do. So, as I say, I mentioned Richard Dawkins in the morality issue. I see what goes on in the atheist world as a facsimile, if you like, a reflection or something like that of Christianity. And of course, the thing which I dislike, if you ask me, is the fact that once you've got this dogma, the believers don't appreciate your questioning it. And I've increasingly found, dealing with a lot of these humanist atheist types, is here. I mean, they dislike what I've got to say, even more than they dislike what Franklin Graham's got to say, because I'm saying, look, folks, you're playing, in many respects, you're playing exactly the same game as these people. See, this is why I'm an agnostic rather than an atheist, because not because I'm a softy or I can't make my mind up. No, my agnosticism is just as firm in a way as Richard Dawkins' atheism. I'm committed to this as a positive, if you like, position to have. In other words, it's not because I don't care, don't bother me, I just don't want to say anything, or it's not because I want to say I'm too scared to say God does not exist, because if he does, I'm going to be in big trouble. No, it's just genuinely a sense of, I say, not knowing, but of awe at the mystery of existence. How's that sound?
Yeah, I think that makes sense.